a city of three faiths. It is perhaps the most spiritually resonant piece of land in human history. A city of ancient stone and enduring spirit, revered by three great faiths, yet often the focus of imperial ambition. To the Christians, it is the center of sacred history, the site of salvation.
Hear our prayers.
To the Jews, it is the ancestral heart, the site of the Holy Temple. To the Muslims, it is the sacred sanctuary of the night journey. But in the year 1187, Jerusalem is a focal point of intense tension. For nearly a century, it has been ruled by European Crusaders. And one man is about to shift the balance of power. His name is Salah ad-Din. The West calls him Saladin. The Crusader kingdom. To understand the change that was coming, we must look at the kingdom that controlled the region. Following the initial conquest nearly a century prior, the Kingdom of Jerusalem had established significant political and economic standing. Protected by imposing stone fortresses and elite military orders, the European ruling class governed from the Holy City. But beneath the apparent stability, the kingdom was facing internal political division and strategic challenges. The complex dynamics of leadership were beginning to fragment, vastly underestimating the growing unity in the surrounding lands. The Rise of Saladin. That growing unity centered around Salah ad-Din, a brilliant tactician from a Kurdish background and a deeply observant man. Saladin understood a strategic necessity to reclaim the Holy City. He first had to bring order and unification to the surrounding regions. Through careful diplomacy, political maneuvering, and recognized leadership, he consolidated vast territories from Egypt to Syria. In the Islamic world, Saladin became a symbol of unified purpose. He was driven by a deep conviction regarding the spiritual significance of Jerusalem. He was a leader known for his strategic mind, but also remembered for his reputation for chivalry and restraint. Reynald's actions. Despite the geopolitical tensions, a fragile diplomatic truce had existed between the surrounding lands and the kingdom. However, this peace was disrupted by the aggressive actions of a rogue political figure within the kingdom, Reynald of Chatillon. Reynald directed forces to intercept a significant trade caravan traveling peacefully through the region, seizing valuable goods and detaining those traveling with it. This act was seen as a profound breach of agreement. When Saladin demanded restitution and the release of the travelers, his request was refused. The diplomatic pathways were closed. Saladin determined that a strategic response was necessary, and he began to mobilize his unified forces to march toward the region.
We confirmed the rumors, Sultan. The Crusaders are marching on Jerusalem ahead of schedule.
The Battle of Hattin. In July 1187, The strategic maneuvering culminated near the rocky hills known as the Horns of Hattin. Saladin demonstrated tactical superiority. He managed to maneuver the large Crusader force into an exposed position, deep within the arid landscape and critically distant from vital water sources. Exhausted by the extreme heat and heavily constrained by their heavy armor, the Crusader army was quickly surrounded and strategically cut off. Saladin's forces utilized the environmental conditions, using controlled fires in the dry brush to disorient the opposition. The resulting engagement led to the decisive neutralization of the Crusader field army. The leadership was detained, and the political future of the kingdom was effectively decided. The siege begins. With the main field army neutralized, Saladin's forces advanced quickly across the region, securing multiple fortified locations. Eventually, they arrived at the critical strategic objective, the fortified city of Jerusalem.
Can anyone stop the noise that's inside my head? A voice that keep telling me things, horrible things about you. And I remember what they used to say, you should count to 10. Take a deep breath and run out of things to say. But I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then I start a little war.
Inside the city, the atmosphere was a mix of intense resolution and strategic concern. The defense fell to a knight named Balian of Ibelin, who organized the remaining population and organized fortifications. Remembering the events of the last conquest nearly a century ago, the population prepared for prolonged resistance, fully aware of the stakes of the conflict. The standoff. For significant time, the intense siege continued. Defensive positions were strained, and the ancient fortifications began to sustain critical structural damage. Recognizing the impossibility of indefinite resistance, and seeking to avoid further hardship for the population, Balian initiated diplomatic contact with Saladin. He rode out for a tense meeting. Initially, Saladin sought total strategic capitulation. However, Balian presented a resolute position.
We both know how this ends. The only question is how much blood must be spilled before you accept
If acceptable terms were not offered, the defenders would initiate a decisive defensive action, potentially leading to the loss of significant historical and spiritual sites and an extended conflict that would resolve with significant loss. The Merciful Surrender. Saladin considered the strategic situation and the historical significance. His perspective was informed by his strategic goals, but also by his principles regarding Jerusalem. A prolonged and potentially destructive resolution was not in line with his desired strategic outcome. In a notable moment of diplomatic resolve, Saladin accepted Balian's proposal. the city would not be subject to military occupation or unrest. The population was permitted to arrange a structured departure through a diplomatic process. When significant numbers could not meet the required terms, Saladin and his leadership provided resources to cover their departure personally. It was a resolution characterized by strategic restraint.
Sustain you. Thank you, my lord. May Allah reward your kindness.
Return and restoration. The strategic outcome had a significant impact on other historical communities in the region. For nearly 9 decades, significant restrictions had been placed on the local Jewish population regarding their ability to reside in Jerusalem.
Please hear my prayer. Please bring peace.
Saladin immediately reversed this policy, issuing a formal decree inviting the return of the Jewish community. Local populations from surrounding lands and as far as North Africa traveled to re-establish their connection to the city. Simultaneously, for the Islamic world, the reclamation was a moment of profound spiritual joy. Saladin and his leadership personally supervised the restoration of the sacred spaces, including Al-Aqsa, ensuring they were returned to their intended purpose with dignity. The distinct sound of the call to prayer was heard once more.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar.
Legacy and enduring impact. Salah ad-Din passed away just 6 years later in Damascus. Historical accounts indicate he was a man who lived modestly, ensuring his strategic gains benefited the state and the people, leaving few personal resources upon his death. Yet, his strategic and moral legacy was enduring. In a complex historical era defined by significant conflict, Saladin emerged as a towering example of recognized leadership and tactical brilliance. He was respected by the communities he governed, the people he brought together, and the leaders he faced in strategic opposition. He was the conqueror of Jerusalem, but to history, his enduring reputation is defined by restraint, dignity, and principled leadership.